Hello and welcome to this week's special Motor Trade Radio podcast in association with eBay Motors Group. Today we're speaking with Robert Forrester, CEO of Vertu Motors. Welcome back to the show, Robert.
I didn't expect to be back so soon.
No, and thanks for giving up some time. I mean, it's a challenging time for you and everybody at the minute.
Yeah, an interesting experience we're all going through, both personally and professionally, that's for sure. But at least I haven't got some foreign army shooting bullets at me and I'm not in the bottom of a trench.
Well, that's one way of looking at it.
But you are getting inspiration from war films, Robert.
I am. My daily diet of great British war films is keeping my morale up.
Yeah. Well, welcome back onto the podcast, Robert, and thanks for joining us to discuss the ramifications of the coronavirus on the car retailing sector. Can you perhaps start by telling us what actions you've already taken in response to the Prime Minister's announcement on Monday of a lockdown of non-essential retail businesses?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think actually we did change our plans at 9 o'clock last night, but we've been obviously taking action since late February, actually. And we put a stock exchange announcement out this morning, which sort of updated our shelves on that. So we put a recruitment freeze in place from the beginning of March. We've been monitoring and curtailing CapEx from the beginning of March. So all these things have been coming up, and we've been working very, very hard in the past month to ensure that our business is as home working effective as possible. And we are lucky insofar as quite a lot of our processes are heavily centralised. I mean, I think you've probably both all been to Gateshead. We've got actually, people keep telling me we've got a lot more than 300 people. I keep saying we've got 300 people in Gateshead. We've got 500. So they won't tell me. But, so a lot of our processes are centralised, and that's been a great benefit to us as we've been doing our planning. So we must have 40 internet sales executives, for example, and that's going to be a key part of our strategy, obviously, in the weeks ahead. So we had a plan, which was a great plan, which we implemented yesterday morning to effectively wind the operations down by close of play Wednesday night. So we enacted that at 9 o'clock on Monday morning. Clearly then, and we did actually plan as part of that plan, as we said to the shareholders, to actually maintain a skeleton operation in after sales. Some of our businesses are going to continue as normal, interestingly. So our 8 parts online parts selling business in Sittingbourne is broadly operational throughout. Our Vans Direct business in South Wales is operational, online effective selling of vans, and clearly our internet digital strategy powers on, albeit we can talk perhaps about vehicle deliveries later, because that's a big imponderable vehicle deliveries at the moment. Anyway, last night's announcement we think changed the plan. It is quite clear we are in a very serious situation as a nation, and we felt we needed to take speedier action. So this morning we basically instructed the dealerships that deliveries would cease as of 4 p.m. today. I think some groups are taking a slightly different view of that, but we thought it was important actually that we got control and effectively closed the business by 4 p.m. this afternoon. That we wouldn't accept any more service customers. We would work today on the customers that we got in the workshops to try and get them mobile. And that we would basically wind the business down. So I'm pretty sure it's now 1:15, that our central facilities are now closed in Gateshead. That doesn't mean there's nothing happening. It just means everybody's at home.
Yeah.
So what it does mean in the dealerships, though, is at 4 o'clock today, nothing is happening. And I think we have to take it's very difficult for the government, isn't it? Because they can't prescribe every minutiae detail of British life. They have to outline some rules and then broad principles, which then people have to interpret for their own, to actually implement in their life. And we took the view that the less movement of people around the country, the better. The less exposure our people had to other people, the better. You know what it's like in dealerships. How do you do a sales meeting with a 2-meter rule in place?
Yeah.
Well, it's nonsense, isn't it? So you asked the question and used the words non-essential retail businesses. So that's an interesting question, clearly. And there is a lot of work being done around that. But as of 4 p.m. tonight, our business will close. Now, I think it will actually probably, in certain locations, reopen, which I'm no doubt we can come on to within the next 4 or 5 days, I would say.
So in terms of obviously, I mean, you're talking around the planning and build up to this and announcement to the stock exchange, and I presume part of that is obviously around the financial safeguard of the business and the staff, and obviously, as you say, some people, although you have got your doors closed in certain cases, there is still business being done in there, as you say, behind the scenes there, and
well, business in the loosest sense. There are some aspects of our business, and we took the view that we wanted to start from a zero place. So, i.e., 4 o'clock, I can have my tea and the business is shut. The area of the business I think we are then going to review, and we've started to review, is clearly the government guidance actually said you had to close showrooms.
Yes.
It didn't say you closed garages. Garages is a loose, awful definition, I think, for workshops. So if you look at Quick Fit, they're open, etc., etc. And clearly there is a requirement for the industry to keep Britain moving in terms of vans, in our case, key workers, to make sure they're on the road. And what we will be doing, and in fact, the NFDA have a significant role, and the chief executives had a call this morning with the NFDA, is we need to get our mind round what that means. So do we have skeleton staff of after-sales specialists in dealerships, in every dealership or in a certain number of dealerships? Do we operate in consultation with, do we make sure for each franchise there's some regional representation or town representation to make sure that the people who actually need to move can move? I think it'd be very low scale. And actually, we will not be doing it in the next 24 to 36 hours. We will take our time a little bit to plan it correctly, then selectively possibly reopen some of these after-sales entities for very limited essential work. Now, one of the issues we clearly got is MOT. Is it essential that an individual on lockdown goes to one of my dealerships to get an MOT? I have to say, common sense tells me it isn't. But the government hasn't moved on that yet, but you'd hope common sense would prevail and they would move on that, which will take a lot of pressure off people because people are obviously worried about that. I think what we're trying to do is get our minds as an industry around the vans that need to be on the road, the emergency vehicles that might break down, the vulnerable people that might break down who in rural areas need cars. There's a lot of issues to deal with, and clearly we'll have to deal with them. But you can only do things, in my opinion, in stages.
Because I guess part of that conundrum, Robert, is that this particular March, there's a record number of cars requiring testing that were first sold in March 2017. So there's over 560,000 cars due an MOT. So what's your thinking there?
Well, what's more important, that we get on top of the virus or somebody gets an MOT?
Yep.
You don't even think about that one so long, do you?
No.
That's the silence of that, yeah.
Answers on a postcard, please. So let's get the job into perspective.
Yeah.
We have a responsibility to our colleagues. Our colleagues are clearly safer at home than they are dealing with members of the public in dealerships. Fact. So we have to be very careful to make sure we've got essential operations running that are in the national interest. You talked about British war films. Is it in the national interest?
So following on from that, Robert, would you like to see an extension to MOTs? I believe something's been introduced for HGVs.
Yeah.
Would you like to see similar applied to cars?
Yes.
Yeah, a 3-month extension or something similar to that.
Something of that ilk. And I know we raised that with the NFDA last week. I don't think much progress has been made, if I'm honest, but I'm sure people have got a lot to think about, so that's no criticism. So let's see where the government get to. The government are trying to deal with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, the government wasn't set up to deal with this. It's trying to get a lot of stuff over the line, and frankly, it's doing a very, very good job of it. So, I'm sure they will get to this in due course. Is it to the end of the world if the car next door to me hasn't got an MOT on it? No.
Yeah, this is exceptional circumstances, isn't it? That nobody, like you said right at the start, there's no plan, there's no contingency in place for this. Really, it is evolving on a, as we were talking before the show, it's evolving by the minute. Never mind by the day or the week.
You can imagine some junior civil servant with a flip pad and it says MOT, and he's going around Whitehall knocking on doors as people are trying to get strategic transport plans in place for the distribution of food and fuel, and he keeps saying, "Can we talk about MOT?" And he's like, "No."
It is difficult, isn't it? Like you say, I mean, I think there's a lot of questions being thrown in to the government and others, and they haven't got necessarily the answers straight away, have they? Because things are changing.
I'm honest. I think they're doing a very, very good job. Is it difficult? Of course it is. Did I ever think I would have 36 hours to close down a 3 billion turnover business with 6,000 employees? No, I didn't think I'd have to do that. Have we done it? I think we are in good shape to doing it. And actually, the other thing to say is you've got all, I'm sat here with my command and control structures, but I'm dealing with individuals at all levels of the organisation who are clearly anxious because they're anxious about their families, they're anxious about the virus, and they're anxious about their future economic well-being. So you have to be all cognizant of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like you say, there's no plan, is there? I think there's individuals, but it's a case of getting through this as swiftly as possible.
Quite good at plans. I'm coming up with plans all the time. The trouble is, every time I come up with a plan, somebody changes something, and that has to be changed. At least I think I've now got a plan. You can't have a bigger plan than close down, can you?
No, and that's happening. I mean, just taking this back a little bit, in terms of in March and the year-to-date performance, and you're trying to think about obviously where we are as a marketplace. We came out of you were on the podcast recently. We came out of Brexit, in December. Consumer confidence rose, so we're in a fairly strong position, both with the unemployment, the financial market, everything else.
There were some odd things happening though, weren't there?
There was a lot of things happening.
There were some very strange things going on. I mean, used cars were okay.
Yeah.
Values were strong, but demand was okay. It wasn't absolutely on fire, I don't think. January I didn't think, as strong as I thought it would be with the Boris bounce. But the supply side dynamics of new cars and the demand side dynamics of new cars, I don't believe all was particularly well anyway.
No.
I think the announcement by the government on hybrids in 2035 was a disastrous announcement, as it happens. And I think put a fairly big question mark in the minds of consumers as to where they wanted to go or whether they wanted to go anywhere around a new car. My personal view is that the new car market in March was going to be down. Now, we'll never know now, will we?
Well, no.
That's an academic question if ever there was one. But certainly my view is that the market was going to be down on retail.
Yeah.
And no point debating that. We definitely have got issues around this CO2 legislation and regulation. I've never been a major fan of it, as you know. And one of the possible upsides of this debacle we're going through, I did read a great quote from the World Health Organization, January 2020. What did it say? The climate change emergency is the biggest danger to public health globally in 2020. I mean, that's about as relevant as the Brexit going to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we were looking in the wrong direction. So when we come out of this and the economy is not going to be in a great state, to be honest, we're going to have a lot of debt as individuals, a lot of debt as companies, and a lot of debt as governments. The manufacturers are in my opinion, going to need some help from the authorities in the European Union, and changing those regulations to give them a help, I think, is going to be on the table. Personally, may very well be wrong, but personally, I think that is a debate to be had. But clearly, we've got bigger challenges to face in the next 12 weeks than that one.
Yeah, and the new, that new car challenge, whatever the changes, when we get through this, it's still going to be there, isn't it? That's reality. That we're still going to have that.
Yeah,
that new car
I wonder
challenge.
whether the population and the politicians are going to be very much more focused on economic rebuilding than they are going to be on CO2 emissions. I mean, you could make the very strange statement that for the first time ever since we developed the motor car, the emissions of new car sales in April will be zero.
Yeah, that's a stat that I never thought of. CO2. Yeah, the CO2 levels would have dropped, wouldn't they? Yeah, certainly. Yeah, that's okay. So it's a stat that I've never thought of, but yeah.
So, Robert, I mean, you've said that these are fast-changing times. It's changing not necessarily by the day, but by the hour. It's totally unprecedented what we're going through at the moment. So what's your best advice to fellow colleagues and indeed fellow dealers?
Well, my first thing would say, look after yourself first in terms of your own health and mental well-being. So make sure you get plenty of rest, make sure you drink plenty of water, make sure you eat well, you exercise, and you're in some position to actually make decisions. I think that has probably passed, as it happens, as advice. I think we're probably through that bit. But, I think of a General Patton who once said, tired generals are always pessimists, which is always a good quote. So I think look after yourself first, then look after your people. My personal view is the government have done a very good job in providing financial support. I think the banks will be in a very good position to provide financial support. So I personally people are going to make the right economic decisions and financial decisions, but I think this is bigger than financial decisions. I think the government are there getting our backs, actually, which takes a lot of pressure off. I then think you've got to think about there will be an end to this. There will be a car market at the end of it. The car sales in China in March were 1 million, which I know was half of normal, but I mean, pretty good shout, actually, given what they've been through. And therefore, making sure you've got a motivated team of committed people at the end of it who think you did the right things and made the right calls is the most important thing.
And is that going to be a big challenge for you as a business, keeping the staff motivated?
Well, it depends to what extent what happens next, doesn't it? Actually, we have. I think that I write to the entire workforce every 48 hours anyway, and always have done. They know what's going on in the family. I tell them what's going on in the business. It's quite a personal means of communication, and we've set up the fact that from this evening, where the vast majority of our colleagues will be on furlough, that I will be able to still communicate directly with them to their personal email addresses. So I will do a blog later on, and it will go to 6,000 people, whether they're in work or they're not in work. And I think that helps keep people together, assuming I'm sensible in what I write, obviously. And that's worked well for us, and it's helped to create a sense of community. And a lot of it is not about business. It's about, what are we going to do now as a country and as a community? And I think people are crying out for leadership from all sorts of directions, actually, because people in uncertain times want to feel that there is a future and that there is going to be better times ahead. So I think that's important from my perspective, that we do the right things. If there are sacrifices to be made financially, then clearly sacrifices have to be made by everybody, and everybody has to be seen to be actually taking the sacrifices. And the decisions that we've made in the last 48 hours are unprecedented. But the people who are on furlough, which will be, I haven't worked out the statistic, but must be 90%, they're not forgotten. They will come back, and we are going to treat them as part of the team and update them almost daily. Because actually, I've come to the fast conclusion that in 10 days' time, even I've not got a lot to do, if I'm honest. So I'm going to be able to write blogs to people. I mean, there is a lot to do. We've absolutely maintained our digital capacity internally. We've maintained, developed all our software developer, lots of capacity within the business, because I think there's a lot to do. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to be writing out on Saturday night about how many cars we've sold.
Yeah.
And I guess what a lot of listeners will be interested in is how you're adapting to home working, because you are constantly out and about in the business, but you are now working from home, I guess.
Well, I've actually, as part of our crisis planning, I was banned from central functions about a month ago. So I have not been to my office for probably 3 weeks. Yeah. I've been to dealerships, actually. But then we had a slightly interesting episode where 3 weeks ago my daughter arrived back from Bergamo Airport after a school skiing trip, which was not fortuitous, to be said. And my wife, I am actually married to a doctor, as many people know, who saved my life once, and I hope she doesn't have to do it again. My little lad, who's 11, who is now making a radical recovery, has been ill for a fortnight with a bad cough, high temperature, and feeling absolutely tired. So we don't know whether he's had the virus or he hasn't had the virus, and we'll probably never will know. So I've then had to go into self-isolation, which has made not one difference to me, actually. I've been working very hard from my desk at home, as a lot of people have. And I've had a lot of support from the team, ranging from colleagues writing me notes saying keep going to the senior team. I think we've all had our moments of being a bit down, because it is clearly a very anxious time. And I think what's made it actually anxious at times, I mean, I'm certainly, as you can tell, I'm actually not the slightest bit anxious now. What's made it is, I think something happens and you're shocked. And as long as you have 48 hours to actually get your mind around it, come up with a plan and away you go again. The issue we've had with this is every 36 hours, something else has happened. Your brain never actually quite gets to the point where it's settled. Now I think we're entering a new phase of that, because they couldn't do much more, actually, could they? So I think it's a case of making sure you've got strong communities around you, you're strong in the family, you're strong with your team of people at work. And even so, now we're all locked in our own houses, and that's the way to cope with it.
Yeah, and as you say, it's that do the right thing, isn't it? It's not a Vertu issue. It's not an automotive issue. It is a worldwide.
No, that's right. Challenge. And to be honest with you, I won't mention him, but I've spoken this morning to a chap who I consider to be my friend, who owns a single multi-franchised site in a town in England, and actually opposite a couple of my sites, as it happens. And he rang up and said, right, what do I do? So I spent 10 minutes on the phone, giving him probably as good of advice as I can. Whether it was any good will prove in time. But I think we have got to do that. And the industry is actually very good at that. There are really close connections in our industry. I mean, one of the manufacturers actually set up a WhatsApp group for investors stroke CEOs. And it's been brilliant, because we have been able to I mean, what the manufacturers made of it, I have no idea. We've actually sort of taken it over and been comparing notes in terms of what our strategies are. And it's been a source of, really good support to people running, in some cases, bigger businesses than me, actually. In terms of, right, what are you doing? Right, what are you worried about? And I think that's been really helpful, if I'm honest.
I think that's clear, isn't it? Like you say, whether it's the manufacturers, dealers, whether it's independent, whoever that is, through our side, through the auctions and remarkers, it is everybody coming together. How the industry, how the UK, how we're going to get through this and help each other out, and this is really a testament to everybody, isn't it? That coming together.
I mean, I think the next few weeks are going to be very difficult, actually, from the health front. But I think we need to look at what good will come out of this. And I think families might actually end up stronger. I think communities will end up stronger. We might reprioritize what's important. And that might actually help the country.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think there's there's this colleagues, friendship, neighbours, family. That's what it's all about, as you say. It's about putting everybody number one into it, looking after everybody, irrelevant of who they are, what business they're in, competitor and non-competitor into it at this stage. I think it's the quicker we can get through this, get through the other side, the quicker we'll come out as strong, if not stronger, than we entered it. And we can start getting back to normal, and business will, the automotive industry has been through some challenges through its time, and it'll come through it, won't it, as strong as it ever has done before. So I think that's
I would think so. I mean, it'll be very interesting to see what trends there are. I heard a fact which I thought was very interesting, that Google spotted a major trend in London last week for a massive increase in Google searches for used cars under £2,000.
Yeah.
And you can speculate why that might be, but do people, because this virus might be around for quite a long time, it's not going to disappear in the next fortnight, is it? Do people want personal mobility?
Yeah.
Rather than shared mobility? I was never a great believer that shared mobility was going to change the world. I think it isn't. If you ask somebody today whether they want to sit in a car by themselves on the way somewhere, or sit in a box with 10 other people, not a hard choice. I mean, my great love of railways. I mean, I've been banned from using the train for the last month. That's absolute torture. So, I think there are going to be societal changes coming out of this, and I think cars are going to be quite important, because people will want that individual freedom. I think we may very well see much less foreign travel. And people actually wanting to go away in Britain, which, again, what do you do when you go away in Britain? You tend to go in the car, don't you? So I think there's some interesting things we're going to watch over the next 12 months or so. Clearly, all pales into significance with the need to protect the NHS in the next 12 weeks.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, it's been a pleasure, and I think what we'll do, we'll try and get you back on in a few weeks and see how you are by then. It's
I'll be bored. I'll give you that.
See how you're coping.
All right, nice.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure, and as I say, we're in it. We're all in it together, aren't we? And it's been a pleasure for you sharing your thoughts, and good luck to you, your family, your colleagues, and friends, and everybody else through this. So it's an unprecedented time, as you say, and but we will get through this by doing the right thing.
I think you two are doing a great service in terms of bringing the industry together and sharing ideas, and I think it's very valuable. I will be gobsmacked if you don't get a high hearing over the next few weeks, as people want to stay connected.
No, I think there's a lot of call for that. I think at the minute it is about talking, it's about keeping in touch, it's about sharing, as you say, thoughts, ideas, and helping each other out through these times. I think at the minute more than ever.